Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to another video. Love to see you guys for another one. Now in today's video, we're going to talk a little bit about the money side, and specifically there's a story that I want to tell you guys, and it's quite funny actually. And the story has to do with a Big Mac. So make sure you guys stay tuned to the end because it is a little funny, but also there's a lot of little nuggets and a lot of little great lessons in it. And hopefully you guys can take those little nuggets and apply them in your journey as you go along. But before we get into it, make sure you guys give me a like for the video as it helps the channel grow. Make sure to subscribe to the channel and hitting that notification bell so you're notified whenever we upload to the channel. And if you get a kick out of the story, make sure to send it to a family member or friend. That way they can hear the story as well. All right, guys, housekeeping out of the way. Let's jump into it. For those who are watching my channel for the first time, this channel came to be because I ended up going through a journey early on in my 20s of becoming debt-free. Now, I talked about it before many times where, I went into massive amounts of student loans and I had to figure my way out of that. And it was a really cool and rewarding experience because it taught me a lot of lessons that I know and utilize today. How I was able to accomplish this was I was consuming a lot of financial resources early on in my 20s because, of course, they don't teach you that stuff in school. And I ran into a program that allowed me to leverage it and be able to learn about money and then utilize that in order to help me in that particular stage of life. So once people have started learning about my journey and they learned about what I was able to accomplish in my early 20s, they'll go into the About Me section, they'll find my contact information, they'll ask me to speak at an event or in group settings. And every time I go out and speak about my journey, it's been very interesting because I share stories because people ask me questions, how difficult was the journey? And one of the stories that I always tell when I am speaking is how I ran into the poor man's Big Mac. Now, before I get into what a poor man's Big Mac is, let me set the stage for you so that way you can see how this all came to be. Now, in my early 20s, I was working on a team as a network engineer, and I had a good coworker of mine whose name is Tom. And Tom, if you're watching this, shout out to you, man, because these are one of the incredible stories that I have whenever I think of you. Now, when you work with people for so long and you spend a lot of time together, you naturally start talking about things that you have going on in your lives. And one of the things that I shared with Tom at the time was I was getting out of debt. It also made sense too why I was eating rice and beans or ham and cheese every day. He didn't understand why until he figured that out. After constantly eating the same thing each and every day, and the reason why, of course, is because we had a bare bones budget. And I mean bare bones. Enough to make sure that I didn't die. Tom, I guess, mustered up the courage one day to just ask me the question and say, hey, Lewis, let's just say you pay off one of your student loans and you want to go celebrate. What do? Do you just go to McDonald's? And of course, he said that jokingly, thinking that that was my way of celebrating. And I told him, no, I don't even do that. I actually just make a meal at home and we celebrate in the comfort of our home. So Tom puts his hand over his head and just starts looking on the floor and shaking his head like, wow, this guy is so cheap that he won't even go out to McDonald's and celebrate with an easy little meal over there. I had responded to Tom, well, Tom, why would I go to McDonald's and spend so much money on a Big Mac when I can go ahead and just use that same money and cook a nice meal at home and enjoy the process with my wife? Plus, I had also threw in there, why would I go to McDonald's to buy a Big Mac, a single sandwich, when it was close to $4 at the time for that entire sandwich? Just the sandwich alone, didn't even include the meal, but it was close to almost $4 just for the sandwich, when I can take that same money and buy other things with it. Can you imagine two engineers with six-figure salaries talking about $3 or $4? I mean, this is how bare bones I was thinking back then in order to get myself out of the situation that I was in. After my response, Tom had responded back to me and said, hey, Lewis, if you're that broke, why don't you at least go and get a poor man's Big Mac? I looked at him really weird, like, what is a poor man's Big Mac? I've never heard of that. He's like, you never heard of a poor man's Big Mac? I said, no. Tell me a little bit more. This is what he says to me. He says, all right, when you go to McDonald's, you're going to ask for McDouble. Now, when you're going to ask for the McDouble, you're going to ask them for only onions, only American cheese. You're going to ask them to add in the mac sauce. You're going to ask them to add in lettuce. And you have all of that combined to get you a poor man's Big Mac. What Tom was informing me, and what I didn't know at the time, was you can actually reconstruct a Big Mac by just asking for ingredients separately. So I'll go ahead and put the receipt over here on the screen so that way you guys can see. And it's crazy because I actually went and did that. As you can see in the receipt, there was a McDouble that I asked for. And by the way, I hope you guys can tell. I know the picture is probably not as great. I mean, the receipt is about 6 years old. No, I didn't save the receipt for 6 years. I actually took a picture of it at the time. But isn't it crazy to see how the McDouble was $1 at the time? You add the mac sauce, which was 50 cents. You add the shredded lettuce, which was 35 cents. And altogether for less than $2, so $1.97, you actually got an entire Big Mac, a poor man's Big Mac, compared to if you would have spent close to $4 on the sandwich alone if you just asked for a Big Mac. Now we're talking about huge savings there. Now, interestingly enough, after I went to McDonald's and I billed this poor man's Big Mac, I actually took the picture and I went to Tom the very next day and I said, "Hey Tom, your idea was great. I actually went and built the poor man's Big Mac and it actually tasted just like a Big Mac." That was really, really cool. Tom started laughing and he started shaking his head and looking at the floor, sort of in, I don't know if it was like disappointment or maybe it was like embarrassment, but it was like, dude, I didn't expect you to do that. It was a joke. I wasn't intending on you to go and do that. And I looked at him like, oh, I thought you were being serious. And it was interesting because after that situation, I became the laugh of the town. And that was the thing going around in our group where people learned that I had built a poor man's Big Mac. And I would get comments about what the next thing was that I was going to do in order to save $1. Now, all that to say, I genuinely knew that my team was just having a good time and they were making light of the situation. But I share that story with you guys because as you go on through your journey and you experience certain things throughout your journey, you're going to be tested. People are going to make fun of you. People are going to comment. They're going to say all kinds of stuff. But it's interesting because after you hit your goal and you accomplish it, those are the same people who are now asking you how you did it. Now, the other thing that I hope that you gathered from that story is sometimes in life when you want something really bad, just hone in and focus on that thing and then remove all the naysayers, remove all the distractions out of the way in order to hit that goal. Have that ultimate focus. Now, the last thing that I'll share with you guys that I think is very, very interesting, and I'll go ahead and put that receipt up again, but take a look at that price for that McDouble. Now, this was back in 2018, so 6 years ago. A McDouble at that time was $1. Now, as of the recording of this video, I'm actually gonna put the price of a current McDouble in my area. And it's crazy because I took a screenshot on my phone and it's $2.99. And that's just in 6 years. So if we do a little math here, from $1 to $2.99 in 6 years, that is a price increase of 199%. Or if you want to think about it per year, 33% per year. Or if you want to break it down even further, 2.75% increase per month. That is what you call inflation. So inflation is eroding your buying power and you have to have more money in order to buy the same thing from yesteryear. And it's quite unfortunate because a lot of times people don't even look into this kind of stuff. And it's one of the reasons why this channel was born, in order to teach people about this stuff. Isn't that interesting? Year over year, you have to work 33% harder in order to make more money to buy the same thing that you were buying the year before. That's why it's very important in order to get a skill that will grow with you over time, hence the engineering and the tech part of this channel. But then also as well, the money part, you have to learn how to control the finances in order to make sure that you're able to multiply money and also make sure that you're able to keep a lot of money for yourself. That's the finance part of the channel. So my hopes is that you guys learned from this interesting story. You got a little kick out of it, but more importantly, all the nuggets that you've gained from today's video, you'll take that and use that in your journey in life. So anyways, guys, thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to another one. Hopefully you got a kick out of the story. Make sure you give me a like for the video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notifications so that way you don't miss out whenever we upload to the channel. And share the video with a family member or friend so that way they can get a kick out of this story. So I'll see you all in the next one.